If you got your latest electric bill and thought, this is wild, shame there's not much I can do about it, what if I told you that in some states, you can shop around for a cheaper electric rate?
Okay, tell me more.
In about 12 or 13 states, you can choose who produces your electricity.
You might live in one of these states and not even know it. On this episode of Plugged In, I'm explaining the power of choosing your power supplier. And I'm asking the question, should all Americans have this freedom? Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to Energy Sage to stay on top of clean energy topics. And most of us live in what's called a regulated electricity market. You are assigned an electricity company depending on your home address, and that's that.
You get what you get, and you don't get upset.
But some states have deregulated electricity markets. This includes Texas, a few states in the Midwest, and all of these states in the Northeast.
It really came out of the 90s when a lot of states were trying to make sure that the electricity prices were not getting out of hand.
That's Ben Hood, the CTO and co-founder of WattBuy, a company that helps consumers navigate deregulated electricity markets. And if state leaders were worried about electricity prices getting out of hand in the 90s, well, how are they feeling now? I've already done a deep dive on wild electricity prices. Be sure to check out that episode. Let's stay on track here, though. What exactly is electricity deregulation? Well, traditional utilities have always been monopolies.
What are our options?
There are no options.
It's one company that builds the power plant and the transmission lines and delivers electricity to your home. But as Ben mentioned, in the 90s, some state leaders had a different idea.
State governments separated out distribution, which is, delivering the electricity to the home, is always still just a monopoly with an assigned utility because you don't want to have 20 different wires going into your home. But they said for the production of electricity, the generation of electricity, we can make that competitive.
That's why you see supply and delivery charges separately on your electric bill. And if you live in a deregulated state, you can choose which company will supply or generate your electricity. Think of it like this. The utility company is your commute home. You have to take those roads, but you can choose where you fuel your car to get there. Okay, so now that we understand what electricity deregulation is, let's talk about the benefit of having choice. The most obvious, savings.
Money in the bank.
We do find that there can be situations where you can save 20% on your electricity bill.
With electricity prices recently hitting all-time highs and projected to rise, it seems like an ideal time to live in a state that allows you to shop around for the best deals. Most providers even offer fixed-rate options that guarantee you'll pay the same monthly price throughout your contract.
Electricity inflation is like 5 or 6%. So if you wanted to in Pennsylvania, you can go and you can find a 36-month fixed rate plan so that for 3 years you're not going to have that 5 or 6% inflation.
And locking in a fixed rate isn't the only way to save. When there's competition for your dollar, each provider devises enticing plans to try to win you over. For example, if you're a night owl,
there are like 3 nights where you don't pay anything for electricity from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
That's also a great option if you have an electric vehicle. Think about it. You could charge it for free while you sleep. And speaking of EVs, if clean energy matters to you, you can choose an electric provider that offers green plans that rely on renewables.
There's solar specific plans in Texas where you can get a lot of credit for feeding back into the grid. So there are some exotic plans that are great for you to keep your eye out for if you have an EV or a solar system or a battery in your garage.
Everything about energy deregulation is sounding pretty great. So if you're watching this from a state with a regulated energy market, you might be feeling a little salty that you're, powerless when it comes to choosing a power provider. You may also be wondering, why don't all states offer this?
It's just what the state legislators valued for their consumers.
Here's a little history lesson, because the deregulated electricity landscape has changed a lot since the 90s. At first, some states went all in on consumer choice. Some have since pulled back. Some states only give commercial customers a choice, some only offer natural gas choice, and some states don't offer any choice at all. As of 2025, only 14 states plus Washington, D.C. have electricity choice markets. And even then, each state has its own rules.
There's a big difference between how Texas looks at it and then how these northern states look at it.
Texas has come up a few times now, and that's because it's essentially the poster child for deregulated electricity. By that, I mean it's the only state where residents are required to choose a power supplier. You aren't automatically assigned one, which means there's a lot more competition in the market.
You might have 20 or 30, or sometimes in Houston, you might have 300 options.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Meanwhile, other deregulated states make choice a little harder to come by. For example, Michigan is technically deregulated, but it has a 10% cap, so very few residents actually get electricity choice. In other states like New York, most residents have a choice, but they also have fewer providers to choose from because the state has very strict rules for electricity companies.
They require all of the deregulated plants to either be 100% renewable or to guarantee savings.
Aside from Texas, most deregulated electricity states offer what's called community choice, which means your local monopoly will be assigned to you by default when you move in somewhere new. And then you can opt to choose a different supplier. What's crazy is that some people don't even know they have this option though. And I'm guilty. I moved to Massachusetts a year ago and months went by before I sifted through my stack of ad mail and saw several power companies were offering me different rates and plan options. So if this is the first you're hearing about electricity choice, share this video with a friend who lives in one of these states so they can also save on their electric bills.
The most valuable commodity I know of is information.
Now, clearly there are tons of benefits to electricity choice, but there are some downsides.
That one. No, that one.
There's a mental load that comes from needing to figure this out.
Of course, many of us would rather have too many choices than none at all, but analysis paralysis is real, especially when you get too much ad mail.
Junk mail, bill, fan mail.
Ben says that's exactly why tools like WattBuy exist.
There are folks in Texas who are, pulling out spreadsheets and calculating all of these things. We think like, okay, we'll do the math for you. We're good at math.
But Ben tells me the main reason he got into this business was to help protect consumers from the dark side of retail electricity choice, scammers.
Door-to-door salesmen who were basically not explaining what people were signing up for, going into low-income neighborhoods and convincing people to sign up for a 4-year contract that makes them double their electricity rate.
Of course, there are bad actors in most industries. I know we've talked about them extensively within solar. That's why it's important to do your research and work with companies that you can trust.
Research the research.
I think most of us can agree that we'd like the freedom to choose who supplies our electricity. So the question is, why aren't all states moving towards deregulation?
Most of the lobbying dollars that come from utilities go into state legislatures. There's a lot of entrenched interests that fight that because they have little kingdoms and they would like to stay, stay king of those little kingdoms.
I am king of the castle.
So nationwide deregulation would be challenging politically. But whether you live in a deregulated market or not, understanding what it is and how it works is important, especially as our nationwide energy use increases.
This type of innovation is going to be more important as we load the grid. It's going to be so much more important for us to be able to eke all of the capacity out.
If you do live in a deregulated state, ask yourself this question.
Do you feel like you're spending too much on your electricity?
You can check if you're overpaying for your electricity for free right now by going to WattBuy.com. Their 90-second process may save you over $1,000 on your electric bills over the next 3 years. Pair that with solar panels, a home battery, heat pumps, and an EV, all of which you can get through Energy Sage, and you can probably kiss all of your utility expenses goodbye.
Goodbye.
That's all for this episode of Plugged In. A huge thanks to Ben for sharing all of his insights. And if you could save someone 20% on their power bill, you'd probably tell them, right? Share this video to let them in on the secret. Now the question is, do you think that everyone should have the right to choose an electricity provider? Drop your thoughts below and hit subscribe to stay plugged in.